In the heart of Lagos, between narrow streets and lively markets, there is a small, humble restaurant known as Mama Bisi's joint. It wasn't much to look at, just a few wooden benches and tables under a rusted zinc roof, but it was famous across the neighborhood for its steaming plates of pounded yam and egusi soup. What drew people even more than the taste was the price. Mama Bisi's meals were unbelievably cheap, almost too good to be true. Mama Bisi, the owner, ran the restaurant with her two daughters, Abigail and Tola, and her son, Akin. Together, they worked tirelessly from dawn until late at night. Mama Bisi, a stout woman with a stern face, rarely smiled. Her children, much like her, were quiet and reserved. The family barely spoke to each other, and when customers greeted them, they either ignored the greetings or curtly asked people not to greet them again. "Aha, Mama Bisi, good morning," one cheerful man tried as he entered the restaurant one morning. Without looking up, Mama Bisi muttered, "No need to greet. Just order your food." At first, people thought she was just strict or overworked. But over time, her attitude and that of her children became a subject of gossip. They never called each other by name, only communicating with sharp nods or vague gestures. They didn't reply to compliments or pleasantries, and they seemed completely uninterested in making friends or connecting with anyone. The family had strict rules for how food was served. They never allowed customers to use their plates. "Use ours, or leave," Mama Bisi would snap if anyone insisted. And heaven forbid a customer wasted their plates. If someone accidentally dropped one or left with it, one of the children would stare at them intensely until they returned it. "They're acting as if the plates are made of gold," one customer joked one day. But beneath the laughter, people began to feel uneasy. Even stranger was how the family operated. Despite the scorching Lagos sun, they lived in the small room behind the restaurant. Rain or shine, they were always there. No one ever saw them go home, visit the market, or even take a break. When Mama Bisi's daughters braided hair, they never used mirrors, expertly twisting intricate styles with their bare hands. Akin, the son, used a small personal clipper to shave his head, also without a mirror. "Who braids hair or shaves without a mirror?" a curious onlooker once asked. No one had an answer. Rumors about the family began to spread like wildfire. Some said they were just odd but harmless, while others whispered that something dark was at play. "I heard they don't even sleep," one woman told her friend. Someone said they saw light coming from the kitchen at midnight. "They were still cooking." "They are probably just hardworking," her friend replied. "After all, look at how cheap their food is. They are probably struggling to make ends meet." But others weren't so forgiving. "There's something wrong with them. Normal people don't act like that," a man argued in a nearby bar. "They never go out. They don't even let people greet them. It's not natural." Despite the growing unease, the food joint stayed busy. The cheap prices and delicious food kept customers coming back, even if they left with lingering questions. One day, a curious young woman named Funmi decided to ask Mama Bisi directly. She had heard the rumors and wanted to see for herself. "Mama Bisi," Funmi began cautiously, "why don't you and your children ever take a break? Don't you have a home to go to?" Mama Bisi fixed Funmi with a cold stare. "Eat your food and mind your business," she said flatly, turning back to the steaming pot of amla. Funmi left feeling unsettled. The more people tried to understand Mama Bisi and her family, the more they withdrew. Their detachment only deepened the mystery, and the whispers grew louder. "What if they're not normal?" someone suggested one day. "What if they're hiding something?" But no one could have guessed just how strange their secret truly was. One rainy evening, a man named Baba Karim stopped by for dinner. As he waited for his food, lightning flashed across the dark sky, briefly illuminating the small restaurant. Baba Karim swore he saw something odd, a faint, glowing outline around Mama Bisi as she stirred the pot. He blinked and rubbed his eyes, but when the lightning struck again, it was gone. Shaking his head, he muttered to himself, "Maybe I'm just tired." But the unease stayed with him long after he left. In the coming weeks, more customers began noticing odd things. A customer accidentally dropped a plate, and as Akin picked it up, his fingers seemed to pass right through it for a brief moment. Another swore they saw Abigail's reflection vanish from a puddle of water outside the restaurant. Still, the food was too good and too cheap to resist. Most customers brushed off the strange incidents as their imagination or mere coincidences. But the truth was creeping closer, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Deli was a curious man, always asking questions and digging into things others found unimportant. He had been a regular at Mama Bisi's joint for months, enjoying the affordable meals. But unlike others, he couldn't ignore the strange behavior of the family. "They don't even smile," Deli muttered to his friend one day. "How can you run a business and treat your customers like that?" His friend laughed it off. "Deli, cheap food is all that matters. Who cares if they're odd?" But Deli cared. He couldn't let go of the nagging feeling that something wasn't right. The rumors about the family's refusal to greet people, their bizarre attachment to plates, and their lack of mirrors intrigued him. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the streetlights flickered on, Deli decided to observe the restaurant more closely. He sat at a corner table, pretending to eat slowly while keeping an eye on the family. Deli noticed something peculiar about the way Mama Bisi moved. She never seemed to tire, even after hours of cooking and serving. Her daughters, Abigail and Tola, worked with the same unrelenting energy, their hands moving so fast it was almost a blur. Akin, the son, handled the plates with an almost mechanical precision, as if he were in a trance. Then something happened that made Deli's heart skip a beat. A child accidentally dropped a plate near Akin's feet. As Akin bent down to pick it up, Deli saw it just for a split second. Akin's fingers shimmered like smoke, momentarily losing their solid form before snapping back. Deli's stomach turned. What was that? He thought, his pulse quickening. He decided to test them. When Mama Bisi came to take his plate, Deli smiled and said, "Thank you, Mama. Your food is delicious, as always." Mama Bisi's face darkened. She leaned in close and whispered, "Did I not tell you people not to greet us? Focus on your food." Her voice was cold, almost inhuman. Deli nodded quickly, pretending to comply, but inside, his curiosity burned brighter than ever. That night, Deli couldn't sleep. The shimmer he had seen in Akin's hand haunted him, and Mama Bisi's words echoed in his ears. He decided to return to the restaurant after hours to see what they did when no one was watching. Disguising himself with a hoodie, Deli approached the restaurant just before midnight. The streets were eerily quiet, and the faint hum of generators filled the air. As he drew closer, he noticed something strange, soft, bluish light glowing from the cracks in the wooden walls of the restaurant. Peeking through a small gap, Deli froze in disbelief. Inside, Mama Bisi and her children were gathered around a pot of fufu. But they weren't cooking. Their bodies seemed translucent, glowing faintly in the dim light. Their movements were unnatural, almost floating as they stirred the pot and cleaned the plates. Deli's heart pounded in his chest. "They're not human," he whispered to himself. The next day, Deli returned to the restaurant, determined to confront Mama Bisi. He waited until the place was less crowded and approached her with a calm but firm expression. "Mama Bisi," he began, "I need to talk to you about something." She didn't look up from her pot. "If it's about food, place your order. If not, leave." "It's not about food," Deli said, his voice steady. "I know what I saw last night." For the first time, Mama Bisi froze. Slowly, She turned to face him, her dark eyes boring into his. "What did you see?" she asked in a voice so cold it sent shivers down Deli's spine. "I saw the light," Deli said. "I saw you and your children. You're not alive, are you?" The restaurant fell silent. Even the customers seemed to sense the tension in the air. Mama Bisi waved her hand, and her children immediately stopped what they were doing, retreating to the back room. "Follow me," she said curtly, leading Deli to a secluded corner of the restaurant. "You want the truth?" Mama Bisi began, her voice heavy with emotion. "Fine. I will tell you, but you will regret asking." She took a deep breath, and for the first time, Deli saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. "Years ago, my children and I ran a restaurant not far from here. Business was good, and life was kind to us. But one night, a terrible fire broke out. We were trapped inside. All of us." Her voice cracked, and she looked away. "We didn't make it out. We died in that fire." Deli's mouth went dry. "But how? How are you here now?" Mama Bisi's expression hardened. "I don't know why. All I know is that we couldn't leave. We woke up in the ashes of our home, half human, half something else. We were stuck. So we did the only thing we knew how to do, we started cooking again." Her voice grew defensive. "We haven't hurt anyone. We sell food, and people are happy. Why can't you just leave us be?" Deli felt a wave of pity mixed with fear. "But this isn't natural," he said. "You can't just pretend everything is normal. People deserve to know the truth." "No." Mama Bisi snapped, her voice echoing unnaturally. "If people find out, they will fear us. They will destroy us. Please, just let us be." Deli hesitated. A part of him wanted to walk away, to forget what he had seen and let Mama Bisi and her family continue their strange existence. But another part of him, the part that couldn't ignore the unease in his chest, knew he couldn't stay silent. "I can't promise that," he said finally. "The people deserve to know what's happening here." Mama Bisi's face darkened. "You don't know what you're dealing with, Deli," she said, her voice low and menacing. "If you try to expose us, you will regret it." Deli stood his ground. "We'll see about that." As he walked away, he felt a chill run down his spine. The air around him seemed heavier, the shadows darker. He didn't know what Mama Bisi was capable of, but he was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Deli couldn't shake the haunting encounter with Mama Bisi. Her words echoed in his mind, "If you try to expose us, you will regret it." He knew he had stumbled upon something far beyond his understanding. Yet, the more he thought about it, the more determined he became. He couldn't let the eerie truth remain hidden. People deserved to know what they were eating wasn't just food but something prepared by beings that defied the laws of life and death. Armed with his resolve, Deli returned home and began telling anyone who would listen. At first, his friends laughed. "Deli, you and your wild stories again," they scoffed. But the details he shared, the glowing hands, the translucent figures, the refusal to use mirrors, began to unsettle them. Soon, whispers spread throughout Ayobo, and the once busy Mama Bisi's joint became the center of fearful curiosity. The news mixed reactions. Some loyal customers defended Mama Bisi. "Abeg, ghost or not, her food is sweet and cheap. That's all I care about," one man argued. But others weren't so forgiving. "What if eating their food has consequences?" an elderly woman said, crossing herself. "What if they've cursed us?" A small group of people decided to confront Mama Bisi. They marched to the restaurant one evening, led by none other than Deli. As they approached, they were greeted by the tantalizing aroma of freshly cooked fufu. But this time, the scent didn't comfort them. It only deepened their unease. Mama Bisi was standing at her usual spot by the pot, stirring calmly as if nothing was amiss. Her children walked silently behind her, their faces blank and emotionless. "What is this nonsense I'm hearing?" she asked, not bothering to look up. Deli stepped forward. "We know what you are, Mama Bisi. The people deserve the truth," she sighed, setting down her ladle. "I warned you, Deli. I told you to leave us alone. But you wouldn't listen." Before anyone could respond, the air in the restaurant grew heavy. The room seemed to darken, as if the sunlight outside had been snuffed out. The mamas of the crowd turned into gasps as Mama Bisi's form began to change. Her skin flickered like a dying flame, revealing glimpses of charred flesh beneath. Her daughters and sons stood behind her, their once normal appearances now replaced with ghastly, smoke-like auras. "You want the truth?" Mama Bisi said, her voice echoing unnaturally. "Here it is." She raised her hand, and the room was suddenly filled with a powerful gust of wind, knocking over tables and sending plates crashing to the floor. Customers screamed, scrambling for the exit, but the door slammed shut on its own, trapping them inside. Deli stood his ground, though his legs trembled. "You can't scare us, Mama Bisi. You need to move on. This isn't your place anymore." Mama Bisi's eyes glowed with anger. "Move on to where? Do you think it's that simple? We didn't choose this existence, Deli. We died in pain, and we woke up in this, in-between place. All we wanted was to continue living the only way we knew how." As she spoke, the glow around her dimmed, and for a moment, the terrifying figure of Mama Bisi softened into something more human. Tears streamed down her face, but they evaporated before hitting the ground. "When the fire consumed us," she said, her voice breaking, "we didn't even have a chance to say goodbye. My children, they were so young. I couldn't protect them. And now, we are trapped, neither alive nor fully gone." The crowd, though terrified, began to feel a pang of sympathy. Even Deli's resolve wavered. "But why stay here?" Deli asked. "Why not find peace?" Mama Bisi shook her head. "We tried to leave, but we couldn't. The fire bound us to this place. The only way we've been able to hold on is by cooking, by serving others. It's all we have left." Deli took a deep breath. "Mama Bisi, I understand your pain. But this isn't right. You may not mean harm, but you're keeping yourselves, and others, stuck in a place you don't belong. Let go. Find peace." Her children looked at her, their ghostly forms flickering. For the first time, their blank expressions showed emotion, fear, longing, and sorrow. But Mama Bisi wasn't ready to surrender. "You think it's that easy," she spat. "You think I haven't tried. I won't risk losing what little we have left." She raised her hand again, and the room trembled. Dishes shattered, the walls groaned, and the air became thick with smoke. But then, Abigail, her eldest daughter, stepped forward. "Mother," Abigail said softly, her voice echoing like a whisper in the wind. "It's time. We can't stay like this forever." Mama Bisi froze, her fiery glow dimming. "Abigail." "It hurts," Abigail continued, tears in her ghostly eyes. "We need to let go. Please, Mama. Let's find peace together." A long silence filled the room, broken only by the sound of the wind outside. Finally, Mama Bisi lowered her hand, and the supernatural tension in the room lifted. She looked at her children, then at the frightened crowd, and sighed deeply. "You're right," she whispered. "It's time." Slowly, the family began to fade, their forms dissolving into faint wisps of smoke. As they vanished, Mama Bisi turned to Deli one last time. "Thank you," she said. "Take care of the living. They need you more than we ever did." And just like that, they were gone. The restaurant, once so full of life and activity, now stood eerily silent and empty. The pots were cold, the tables covered in dust, and the faint smell of omla lingered in the air like a memory. The people of Iobo were never the same after that night. Some swore they could still smell Mama Bisi's cooking on quiet evenings. Others claimed to see faint figures near the abandoned restaurant. As for Deli, he became a storyteller, sharing the tale of Mama Bisi's joint with anyone who would listen. He always ended with a lesson: appreciate the life you have and the people around you. You never know when it might all disappear. And so, the mystery of the ghostly cook in Lagos lived on, a haunting reminder of lives lost and the power of letting go.